Hey guys, I'm Lauren, and today I'm going to be talking about all of the unfinished YA series that I'm in the middle of and just never finished. Okay, so I have a lot of series to talk about today. I was just going through Goodreads trying to figure out how many series that I've started and never finished, and I'm ashamed to say that I have 13 here to share with you today. But in reality, there was a few more than that. I just wanted to kind of focus on the ones that were pretty well known. There's a couple that I started and honestly, I remember nothing about them. So really, like if I was gonna share it with you, like I wouldn't even know what to tell you. I have 13 that I wanna share with you. I'm gonna tell you whether or not I plan to continue with this series. There are some yeses, there are some maybes, and there are some nos. So at the end of this video, once you finish watching, I would love for you to share what your thoughts are on these books with me, especially the maybes. Because if I'm undecided, I really would love some guidance from people about whether or not you think I should continue with the series. And if there's one that I said that I'm not planning to continue, but you really think that I should, I would love to hear that too. So please leave your comments down below after you watch the video and let me know your thoughts, but let's just get started. So the first series on this list is the Maze Runner series by James Dashner, and this was super popular quite a few years ago, but I read the first book towards the beginning of when I started my booktube channel, which is like, I don't know, 4 years ago or something like that. And this one follows Thomas, a young boy who wakes up one day and he's in this place called the Maze, and he has no memories, he has no idea where he is, and there are all these other boys, many of which have been there for up to 2 years and have been fighting to stay alive, trying to figure out how to get out of this maze. And the maze moves every night, so the walls all move so that they can't remember any routes that they've figured out, and they don't know how to escape, and there are these crazy monsters within the walls. Thomas wants to become a runner, and runners are the only ones that are ever allowed to leave the maze, and so obviously he's the main character. He wants to be like the hero and figure out how to get everybody out and figure out what the heck is going on. And then one day a girl shows up, and she's the first girl ever to show up. So, you know, the premise of the story is pretty cool, but the execution I just didn't love. They use the weirdest, like, made-up language in this book, and I remember that bothering me a lot the entire time I was reading it. I just really don't have any desire to continue this one. I felt like it was a little bit more geared towards guys than girls, and it's just kind of like juvenile, and the plot's not as interesting to me as a ton of other series that I could be reading instead. I like kind of watched the movie with my husband. He watched it and I don't know what I was doing, something else in the background, but I don't know. Just the whole thing is kind of weird. I'm just really not that into dystopians, so this one is one I won't be continuing. The second series is Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children series by Ransom Riggs. I read the first 2 of these books, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children and Hollow City, a couple years ago. This follows Jacob, whose grandfather told him stories as he was growing up about this children's home where the children all had special abilities. And when a tragedy occurs in his family, he gets the opportunity to travel to this place where his grandfather told him stories about for his whole childhood. And he had kind of, you know, he believed it when he was young, but as he grew a little bit older, he stopped believing that it was really true. And so when he goes there, he goes to investigate and see if he can find any evidence of this home, which he does, and finds evidence of these peculiar children, but they may still be alive. And so this is kind of a weird series that has really cool vintage photographs throughout the story, and that was my favorite part about these books. I think that's why there was so much intrigue about this series, and a lot of people really liked this series because I think that that made it really unique. But the storyline is really just not that great. I remember liking these when I read them at first, but I just can't see myself going back and reading these again. I know I only have one left, but I feel like I would have to start the whole thing over again if I was going to reread it, and I just don't have any desire to read the first 2 books again. So yeah, this one is probably a no for me. I probably won't continue. The third series on my list is the Raven Cycle series by Maggie Stiefvater, and this one, for sure, I can say right off the bat, I will be continuing on with this series, and I'm actually going to reread them. So this series follows Blue and the Raven Boys, who are a group of boys from this really affluent school that Blue, our main character, becomes friends with, and they go on all these adventures, and it's magical and mysterious and weird and just really good. Like, I think this is one of those series that you either like the tone or you think it's freaking weird and you don't want to read it. And it is quite confusing. I will say the storyline and the plot is very meandery, and I don't know. I think you have to really love the characters, which they're very easy to love, but I think you really have to love the characters to really like this series, but I loved them. So I really want to get back into this world, get back into their lives, and figure out what the finale is all about. I've read the first 3 books, you guys, and I just never finished The Raven King. So I'm really looking forward to rereading this. I have a couple other series that I'm planning to reread first, but this one is definitely on the list, and I'm hoping to get to it this year. The next series is Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Rosh. This is a YA fantasy series that is set in a world where there are 8 kingdoms, and our main character, Miera, comes from the Winter Kingdom. And the Winter Kingdom was completely conquered and destroyed 16 years ago when Miera was a baby by the Spring Kingdom. And so we follow Miera and this group of refugees that have survived. It's this small group of people that are hoping to take back their kingdom and to rebuild it. And if I'm being honest, I probably would have told you if I would have made this video about a month ago, I would have told you that I was not going to continue. But a couple things. First, I watched my spoiler-free video from like way long time ago for Snow Like Ashes. That's the only book in the series that I've read. It's a trilogy. But I didn't remember what I thought about it really. I gave it 4 stars, and I could tell that from Goodreads, but I wasn't sure what my feelings were. And watching that video, apparently I was really excited about it. And the reason that I gave it 4 stars and not 5 was because I was a little bit bored at the beginning. But I think if I reread going into it knowing that the beginning is slow and the end is really good, like I'll have something to look forward to. Jordan from the Jordan Journals, who is a great booktuber that I love watching, she just recently in one of her videos talked about this series and how much she loved it because she was reading Sarah Rosh's next series and comparing. But yeah, I don't know, it kind of got me intrigued again. I had kind of forgotten about this series, and yeah, I don't know, I think I might continue. This one's a maybe, so it's leaning towards a yes, but it's still a maybe. So if you have any thoughts on this one, let me know in the comments. Series number 5 is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and if you've watched my last video, you know that I'm reading that series this month. Well, restarting the series. So I'm reading A Court of Thorns and Roses right now. It's the only book in the series that I've read, and I read it a couple years ago. Didn't remember anything about it, so I actually just finished rereading it, and I won't tell you my thoughts about it until I talk about it in my wrap up, but I will be continuing on, and I will be finishing the trilogy because I know everybody loves it, and I don't know, I like the storyline too, so I'm excited. This one follows Feyre and Tamlin. Feyre is a human girl who kills a wolf, and turns out he's a fairy, and his friend Tamlin comes to collect her and take her to the fairy world, you know, kind of as in exchange for his friend's life. And so Feyre and Tamlin develop a relationship, and there's a whole lot of evil going on in the fairy world that Tamlin is trying to protect his kingdom from. It's a really slow beginning, but then the ending reveals a whole lot about what's going on, and it's really good. Okay, I'm just gonna say that's really good, so I'm continuing. This is a yes. The 6th series on this list is the To All the Boys I Loved Before series by Jenny Han. This follows Lara Jean, a high school girl who wrote letters to all of her crushes that she's ever had throughout the years and put them in a box. And she never intended to mail them out, but one day they get mailed out, and she kind of has to deal with the consequences as all of these guys come and confront her about the letters. This one, I probably won't be continuing this. I've only read the first book, and I know that this is a very well-loved series, but I feel like I'm kind of past high school romances. I've been reading a lot more adult romance lately, and I think honestly that I would miss the steaminess. So I think this one is just like a little bit too juvenile and innocent for me. I don't know. I like YA fantasy, but YA contemporary is maybe just not necessarily my thing anymore. So yeah, this one's probably a no. Number 7 on my list is the Goldseeker Trilogy by Rae Carson. This is a series about a girl who can sense gold, and it's actually set in the gold rush era, so it's very unique. She realizes that this is a very dangerous power to have because there are many corrupt people who would want to exploit it. And so it's a survival story with like a pioneer story, like there is traveling, and it's kind of Oregon Trail-ish, if you know what I'm saying. So this one, I really loved the first book, which is Walk on Earth, a Stranger. I buddy read it with Trina from Between Chapters like forever ago, and we both loved it. And I was really looking forward to the second book, read the second book, and was quite disappointed and bored. And this is just one that I don't think I'll be continuing either. I know that I've read the first two, and I probably could read the third one without having to reread the first two, because I don't think there's anything super intricate in the plot line that I'd be missing or forgetting, but I don't know. I feel like there's so many other fantasy series out there where someone has a magical power and the characters are just more likable than what this one is. And the setting, I think, I just am not big into Westerns, I don't think. So, I don't know. This one is probably a no for me. Actually, I can pretty confidently say it's a no. Number 8 is TheIlluminae Files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, and this is a definite yes. Like, I don't know why I have not finished this series yet. I have not read anything beyond the first book, Illuminae, so this one is so cool. It's a epic sci-fi space novel with a romance, and there's just so much good stuff in this. It's told in multimedia form, which I'm sure you know this is all over. Everybody's read this book, but it's really cool. It's told in like interviews and case files and security camera footage and journal entries and just a whole lot of mixed media that's really cool. I think if I do reread the first one, which I think I will because it's a pretty fast read and I loved it the first time I read it, and it would be good to be refreshed on what actually happens in that book before continuing on with the series. But when I do reread it, I want to do it on audio along with the physical copy. So this is going to be one that I'm going to have to like really carve out time to put my full attention into the book, because I'm, going to have to listen and read at the same time. I just think that's going to be the best way to experience it, because I read it the first time, it was amazing, but I hear that the audiobook is awesome. And now that I've kind of entered the world of audiobooks and like audiobooks, I would really like to listen to this one. So this is a definite yes, and I'm hoping that I'll get to this one pretty soon. Series number 9 on this list is the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard. This is a series that I thought I finished when it was just a trilogy, and then she wrote more books. So this is a YA dystopian fantasy set in a world where your class is determined by the color of your blood. So the silver-blooded people are like the elite, and they have all these crazy superpowers, and the reds are the commoners. And our main character is a red who lives in poverty, but she goes to work at the Silver Palace and discovers that she actually has a power of her own, even though she doesn't have silver blood. So this one is just way too much like so many other YA dystopian series that I quickly lost interest, but I kept reading the series because I had a friend in real life who kept nagging me to read the series because she loved the books. And so I read them for her and really didn't need to, because I just really didn't enjoy this one. I don't know if maybe she hasn't read quite as much as I have and, didn't see all the similarities and kind of get bored with that. But to me, it was just nothing special, and I definitely won't be reading the other books that she wrote in the series. I think there's 5 now, so I read the first 3, but I'm not reading the last 2. The 10th series on this list, and the one that I'm most mad at myself for not finishing, is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. This one I got quite a ways into. I am like halfway through Empire of Storms and have been for like the past 2 years. I think I've started to reread this book like 3 different times, and now that I'm finally reading more consistently, I'm ready to take on this series again. I think when I was only reading occasionally, it was just too much, and I couldn't pick back up where I had left off after such long periods of time not reading. So I'm ready to like reread this series for sure and to like really get into it. This follows Selena, a young woman and trained assassin who is offered an opportunity one day to be freed from the slavery that she's in. She's been enslaved in these salt mines because of past things that she did, and she got caught. But the prince shows up one day and gives her this opportunity to come and compete in a tournament that the king is holding to find a new champion, and she would come and represent the prince and be his champion pick to try to become the king's ultimate champion. And it's a month-long tournament, fight to the death, so Selena has to decide, is it worth risking her life for freedom, because she would have to serve the king for, I think it's 4 years if she did win, and then she would be free with all of her crimes wiped from her record. So this one turns into a whole lot more than that, obviously. It's I don't even know how many books. I think it's a 7-book series, but then there's like a prequel book, and like Tower of Dawn is in the middle there too. So anyways, this is really good. I've loved all the books that I've read so far, and I really want to just restart them because I think that I'll really enjoy the reread, and if I'm gonna read this series and like finish it out, I want to completely know what's happening, and I don't think I remember enough to be able to pick it up now and just finish. I think I definitely need to go back to the beginning and restart, but I'm totally okay with that because I would love to get back into this world again. I love the characters. I love it. So I'm excited for this one for sure. The next series is the Simon Snow series by Rainbow Rowell. The first book is Carry On, and I read that one, but have not read subsequent books. I think there's only 2 books out. I don't know if there are going to be more, but this one just was not for me. This follows Simon and Baz, who are fan fiction characters from the book Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, which I loved and gave 5 stars, which is why I picked this one up. But Simon is the chosen one. It's totally like a Harry Potter kind of thing, and Baz is his nemesis turned lover, and it's their story. But this book is really, in my opinion, just a whole lot of nonsense. It like dumps you in their final year of school, so it's almost like you would be going into Harry Potter in the 7th book and really not knowing a whole lot of what happened before that. And I don't know, don't care about these characters. I don't care about the storyline. So this is definitely one that I just won't be continuing. And I think there's a lot of mixed feelings about this one. I think there's a lot of people out there that also did not like this one. So I don't really feel like I'm missing out on much. Series number 12 on my list is the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber. This book had a concept that I was so excited about, and I really, really, really was like pumped for this book when it first came out. I've only read the first one, but I did not care for it. It revolves around this once a year invitation only performance where the audience participates, and our main character Scarlett has always dreamed for an invitation and finally receives it. She goes to Caraval with her sister Tella, and her sister Tella is kidnapped and becomes part of this year's performance, and the first person to find her wins, but becomes more than just a performance for Scarlett. So this had all of the things that I thought I was gonna love, and I just didn't love it. I think I gave it 2.5 stars when I read it, but this one I'm like really mixed about because I feel like this is one that I could listen to the audiobook and maybe like it better. I don't really know. Let me know if you've listened to the audio for this one and if it's good or not, because for some reason I just feel like this might be a good one to experience in audiobook form instead of physical form. But I was just disappointed by it. I really want to have loved this one, and I would really love to know if the next 2 books get better, because it's a trilogy that I definitely would consider finishing if I knew that it was really good. So this is definitely a maybe for me, and I really don't know my opinion on this one. I would think I would say no because I gave the first book such a low rating, but I think the storyline has such potential. So yeah, it's a maybe. Let me know what you think if you've read this one. And then the final series on this list, number 13, is the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Carrie Maniscalco. This is a series that I am definitely going to be continuing. It's one that I've been actively continuing. I just read the second book in the series like a couple months ago. And this one follows Audrey Rose, who is not your typical young woman in Victorian London. She sneaks off to study forensics at her uncle's laboratory, and so she cuts open bodies, does autopsies, learns how to solve crimes, and each book is her solving a different crime that mimics a famous murderer, like Jack the Ripper, or the second book is Vlad the Impaler. She does it with her kind of sidekick lover, Thomas Cresswell. So I really like these books. They're just fun. They have a little bit of that creepy horror to them, but they're funny, and Audrey's a little bit annoying, but I can handle it because I just kind of like, I don't know, I just like the content. I think it's creative, and I like all the nods to the famous murder cases. I think it's just kind of a cool idea. So this is definitely one that I'm continuing. I really like these on audio. So I have the third audiobook, I think it's Escaping Houdini, on hold from my library right now. There's just like a giant line. When I put it on hold, it was like an 18-week wait. So I don't know where I am in the line right now, but definitely want to continue this one. And as soon as the audiobook becomes available, I'll be continuing on. That is all of my unfinished YA series, and it seems like a lot because a lot of these series have a lot of books, but really I'm not going to be finishing some of these, like I said. So I'm looking forward to the ones that I know for sure that I'm gonna finish. I'm a little bit like, ugh, because I waited too long and now I have to reread a lot of them to remember what the story is all about. I'm kind of mad at myself for that, but I have been doing better as of late with reading series in completion, like within the same year at least. I'm not like a series binge reader, but I'm trying not to let things go so long that I don't remember plot lines. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If there was any maybe series that you have opinions about, please leave comments for me and let me know what you thought, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!